Hello everyone, this is the teaser video for this coming Sunday, March 17th, St. Patrick's Day. And as we look into the getting ready for this passage, how do you react when you hear someone make a bold statement? Most people fall in any of three categories. Either they're a skeptic, or they're optimistically believing, or they kind of discount it altogether, kind of become numb to it. We live in a world, obviously, where people make bold statements all the time. If it's advertisers, if it's athletes, if it's management in a company or whatever, they make bold statements and predictions. And depending how long you've been around, they may motivate you. You may have come numb to them, or you're kind of like hoping, I hope this one works out that way or not. But we're going to look at a passage in which a bold statement is made. It's John chapter 7, verses 37 to 39. John chapter 7, verses 37 through 39. So you'll want to read more after this, because I'm going to ask you like some of the things, what were the people's reaction. But as you read this passage, first, can you figure out what the bold statement is? We may not get it. We may read these verses and not really pick it up. But the people at the time, the people who were at that festival, would have no doubt what Jesus is saying, what his bold statement is. Then there's obviously some foreshadowing here. John's writing this. John's filling in stuff that Matthew, Mark, and Luke probably didn't have in. And John's also are able to reflect back on this from hindsight. So there's some foreshadowing here too that we need to understand. So what's the bold statement that Jesus is making? How are the people at that festival taking that bold statement? And what's some of the foreshadowing that's happening in these verses that no one there would even know or even consider or even understand? There's a lot of things that we can't understand until we look back in hindsight and say, oh man, so that's what that meant. I didn't get it. I didn't see it at the point. I think all of us have that in some things in our lives where we just didn't see what they meant. It might have been our parents. It might have been a teacher. It might have been a coach. Then you look back a few years later with more experience and you're like, so that's what they're trying to tell me. There's stuff Jesus is saying here that is foreshadowing that the people there do not understand and will not understand, but we understand it because we're able to look back in hindsight, and John is able to recite this back in hindsight. So it's an interesting couple verses. You probably, if you want a little extra credit, figure out what festival they're talking about, because it starts out on the last and greatest day of the festival. So which festival? I think there's 7 major festivals in the Jewish religion in this time, or maybe 7 feasts and 4 festivals or something like that. You can figure out the numbers and give it to me. I obviously I wasn't doing that specific detail on this passage or this sermon, but I think there are 7 feasts / festivals throughout the Jewish calendar. So which one is this one? Obviously the last day is the greatest day, and Jesus makes this bold statement. So that's the challenge. We'll discuss it in my Sunday school class. If you find some of this information out, fill me in. It's great if you can fill me in before I preach the sermon. If you want to say, hey Mark, there's 7 festivals and this one was preached at that festival, that's great. But I look forward to seeing everyone on Sunday. I guess people might be wearing green because it's St. Patrick's Day. But until then, take care and be safe.